Okay, so today we'll talk about getting data into R. I think probably a lot of you are familiar with many of these pieces from Stats 20. Maybe I'll try to gauge how much you do or don't know. Okay, and then so before we covered data structures and subsetting, we spent a lot of time there, and then we talked about programming, functions, and flow control and environments last week, and I hope that's all okay. And today we'll talk about inputs and outputs and scraping the web, and then on Wednesday and on Friday we'll look at tidyr and dplyr and some of these packages in the tidyverse. All very good packages. Okay, so we have some basic commands for getting input from a file. We've got scan, which is kind of like the most basic thing. Probably you're using read.csv. That's probably your bread and butter up to this point for getting data, and read.table for non-CSV text files. Readline is how you get inputs from standard input, which is basically the terminal or the console in R. So as far as tic-tac-toe goes, and you're asking the user, how many players are there going to be, or where do you want to move, you'll probably use readline for that function, okay? And so, any of these things, if you're unfamiliar with it, just ask our help on readline, and it'll give you some examples there. Okay, and then we've got some very good packages that are useful for importing data. So there's reader, and this is basically beefs up your read.csv and read.txt functionality in R. So if you've got larger files, reader does an excellent job. And then if you've got Excel files or non-R stats files like SAS or Stata or things like that, you've got Read Excel and Haven. Those are both very good. And those three were all kind of coded up by Hadley and his brilliant mind there. Excel files, we kind of look down on Excel files from our hoity-toity ivory tower in the stats department, but in the real world, people use Excel, and they do statistical analysis in Excel, and it's fine. But if you want to use R with that Excel data, you're going to have to get it into R. You'll probably want to use Read Excel. The only danger with Excel files is people like to format things and merge the cells and all of that, and that gets a bit hairy, but it's okay. You got anyway, you can read on read CSV, and then we got package data.table, which is really good. I recommend reading through the little vignette on just the introduction to the data.table. So that's very useful if you've got massive data files. So things on the scale of a few gigabytes, okay? So if you participate in DataFest this year, generally DataFest has always had these very large files on the order of a few hundred megabytes to a couple gigabytes, and you'll want to, you'll probably use data.table to read those in, okay? And then if you're dealing with things on the orders of hundreds of gigabytes, right, like more gigabytes than your computer has memory, then we have to start talking about very big things. But that's probably a little bit beyond the scope of our course at this point. But there are ways to handle that. We've got package downloader. Okay, so sometimes you want to pull data from a web resource, and they're available either as CSV files that get put up, or you get into some API and it outputs it as some kind of thing. You can use downloader to download things off the internet. There's already a function called download.file, which is functional, or which works fine, until you start running into HTTPS. So anything that's secure, it doesn't know how to handle. So downloader gives R the ability to create secure connections, which is growing to be more and more important these days as we start shifting to everything being secure. you know, whatever it is you're browsing, they secure these days, right? All right, and then we have, so I don't know, basically I just listed off a bunch of packages. I recommend that you install them and then read up on the help files, especially the help files for reader and data.table, and then also follow these links that, you know, there's little webinars and stuff. Okay. LubraDate is like lubricate but for dates, and it just so prior to package LubraDate, handling any kind of date information was very tedious in R. The way R handles date information is that it stores date information as, you know, kind of the number of days since some date in like the 1970s. Okay, I don't remember. Okay, and so it's like, you know, today's date is, you know, this many thousands of days since 1970, and that's how it interprets what a date is. Okay, and so, you know, before LubraDate, if you had some string 6 2005, you know, we look at this and we go, oh, that means August 6th 2005. If you wanted R to understand what that was, you'd have to use this function as.date, and you'd have to say, okay, the way it's formatted is %d, %b, capital B, %y, okay? And then, and you had to get this formatting exactly correct, okay? So here I've got January 15th, 1999 stored as a string. If I want to turn that into a date, I have to use it exactly like this. If I did anything different, if I used a capital D instead of the lowercase d, it fails, okay? Or if I used a lowercase b instead of the capital B, that, oh, I guess that works. Oh, okay. But, you know, if I get rid of the comma, it fails. If anything is just a little bit off, a lot of times this as.date function fails, okay? So what LubraDate does, you just load up the library LubraDate, and you have these string dates. All you have to do is say, oh, my first date is in the form day, month, year, okay? And then it figures it out. My second date is month, day, year, boom, and that works, okay? And this one is also in the form month, day, year. It has a very different format in that it's using numbers rather than the month January or the December or whatever, but it also figures it out. So LubraDate just makes handling dates much easier, okay? So yes, it is true you can handle dates without using these extra packages, but there's no cost in using a package. There's no cost in loading a library. And so I recommend using them just to make your life easier, okay? So far, so good as far as getting R to handle some stuff, your information. Okay. All right, we have RVest, okay? And I guess RVest was covered a little bit in Stats 20, is that correct? Okay. Did you guys do a HTML session with RVest before, though? Following links? Okay, so I'll show you that. Okay, so this is how RVest, and did you guys use the selector gadget with RVest? Yes, no, maybe? Okay. Some of you are nodding and some of you are shaking your heads. All right. So with RVest, you're going through the web and you're scraping information. That's the idea that we want to do. So just, you know, you do install.packages RVest, library RVest, okay? And I've got a little RVest demo loaded up here, and it's also, I think it's posted on CCLE, so you can download it and follow along. You're going to want to get these things going, and so here we have there's this thing called the selector gadget. Okay, so if you go to Google and you just type in selector gadget, or go to selectorgadget.com, there is this thing, and there's a little video showing you how to use it, and basically you just want, you can drag this link to your bookmarks bar. So all you have to do is you just click and you drag this to your bookmarks bar, and it puts the selector gadget up there. I've already, whoops, that's not what I want. Rats. Okay, so I already have it up in my bookmarks bar. It's very, very simple. All you have to do is just put that in your bookmarks bar, and then I'll show you how to use it. Basically, so what we're going to, as for our demo, we're going to pull information from the Lego Movies page on IMDb. Hang on, before we do that, let me just talk about pipes. Okay, so we'll do RVest. So installing the selector gadget is simple. Just go to the selector gadget page and then drag this link, or if you want to install a Chrome extension, you can do that as well. Okay, it's just this little JavaScript thing. Okay, and as far as pipes go, the idea about pipes, this comes from kind of, the bash terminal in Unix, and it allows you to just take the output from one function and feed it directly into another function. Okay, a lot of times in R, we'll take the output of one function, store it as a variable, and then take that thing, run another function on it, store that output as another variable, and so on and so forth. With a pipe, you just say, take this output, feed it over here, take the output, feed it over here, and so on and so forth. And so, for example, let's say you wanted to do this set of operations, right? You're going to take the integers from 1 through 1,000. You want to find the ones that are divisible by 3. Of those, you want to find the ones that are less than 200 or greater than 800. And then, so of the remaining ones, you want to find I should have written standard deviation of those values. Okay. And so in R, you have a few ways to do this. You can nest functions inside each other, okay? And it gets really hairy, right? We've probably built some Frankenstein nested function thing where it's just like one function inside another, right? And so you can do like standard deviation of, and then you want to subset the integers 1 through 1,000 where those are divisible by 0, and of those, this is one way to do it, okay? But this is, it's very hard to understand what's happening when it's kind of written this way. And then so the other way, which is probably a little bit easier to understand, would then be to say like A is going to be the numbers 1 through 1,000. B is going to subset A where A is divisible by 3. And we're going to store that into B. And then C will subset B by finding the ones in B that are less than 200 and greater than 800. And then we're going to take the standard deviation of those values. Okay. So this is probably the way we might do something if we had to do something like this. With pipes, you can kind of just do it in one line, and you just say take the values 1 through 1,000, and this is the symbol for pipe. It's percent greater than percent, but it's kind of like percent arrow percent, and it says take those, pipe that into subset, and you use the dot to indicate kind of the previous data, and take that where it's divisible by 3, and then pipe that output into subset again where it's less than 200 or greater than 800, and pipe that output into standard deviation. Okay, and we get the same result as before. So those are pipes. And there's a shortcut. You don't have to keep hitting percent greater than percent. You can just hit Control-Shift-M or Command-Shift-M on your keyboard as long as library magreader or library dplyr or all of these other things that use pipes, like RVest uses pipes. It'll load that, and you can just use Control-Shift-M or Command-Shift-M for pipes. Okay. Have you guys seen pipes before? No. Okay. So it's pretty awesome. Okay, so we'll let's demo RVest, and or I don't know. Do you guys have any more questions on this stuff? Yes.
Why do we need to use the dot for the SD function?
Oh, we don't. So the pipe has a default thing where the output goes into the first argument of the thing. So generally with subset, you would have data, comma, and then you'd say where this thing is. So that actually is already there, but then what we are subsetting on, so you can imagine subset 1 through 1,000, comma, and then how do we subset 1 through 1,000? We're basically subsetting 1 through 1,000 where 1 through 1,000 is divisible by 3. Okay, so notice this function will subset 1 through 1,000, whoops, where 1 through 1,000 is divisible by 3. That gets reduced into, basically I could have dot, comma, dot %3. Because I'm using 1 through 1,000 in here twice, the default is it assumes it's going to be the first argument, which it is, and then the next argument is where we want 1 through 1,000 is divisible by 3. So that's what we have going on here. If you look up the help in Magritter, or read up the vignette on Magritter and the pipes, there'll be some, I think, some good examples in there. So I recommend reading this thing on Magritter vignettes on Magritter, which is so you guys are familiar with this thing, this picture? No? It's like it says this is not a pipe, even though it's a, and it's like it is. It's not a pipe. It's a picture of a pipe. I don't know. Whatever. Okay. So, and it's the treachery of images. Or I guess that's an important. If you're 15, it's deep. So we have this pipes, and it's very useful. Okay. We'll see pipes more in play when I cover deployer on Friday. All right. Okay, so let's do this RVest thing, and I hope it's neat. I think it was, when I first saw it, I thought it was so cool. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do in deployer. I mean, not deployer. In RVest, you can go onto the internet, which has all the information ever. Or I don't know, maybe not ever, but just has, you know, all of this stuff, and it's great if you're a human and you're on the browser and you're like, oh, what was IMDb's movie rating? 7.8, and you know, what were all these other things? All of this, you know, your browser experience is very visually oriented for you as a person. However, if you want to extract information from this thing, you can, as a computer, the computer looks at the source, and it's just this crazy mess, right? You're just like, where are the, you know, all of this and all of that, and I just want to find out like the rating and things like this, right? And so there's all of this. This is the HTML that the browser is rendering. Whoops, something happened. And so what I can do is I'm going to in R. Well, first I gotta load these libraries. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna just go ahead and clear my environment for now. And let's clear out our terminal. Okay, so I'm gonna load up RVest. Oh, okay. Library RVest, library stringer, library data.table. Okay, you'll want to make sure you have RVest and XML and these other packages installed. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is first I'm going to say the command I give it is read_HTML. Okay, I give it a web address, just like the kind that you would type into your browser. I say read HTML and store whatever you've read into this thing called Lego Movie. All right, and if we look at what is Lego Movie, Lego_movie. It's an XML document with this stuff. So it's just reading, it's read this in. Okay, and what we want to do is, so it has all of the HTML that it's read in. And from that, we just want to extract, let's say I want to extract this movie rating 7.8. Okay, so the way HTML works is that everything on the thing is in these little tags. Okay, maybe it'll say this stuff is a paragraph of information. It puts it in a P tag to say it's a paragraph of information. Okay. Other things, we got more fancy and we say like, oh, okay, you know, this is headline, and this is a piece of information, and we can give it all these little CSS tags. Okay, that say like, oh, this needs to be displayed bold and stuff like that, or strong. And so with the selector gadget, if you've dragged that link into your browser, you click this, okay, and it's not like your normal link. It loads up this little gizmo at the bottom of your screen, okay? And now everything I hover over gets these little orange surrounding things, okay? So what I want to select is this number 7.8. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, okay? As soon as I click that, something shows up down here that says span, and then all of this other stuff on the page got highlighted in yellow, okay? So if I were to use span as the selector, it's going to pick up 575 things. I don't want 575 things. I just want this 7.8. So I'm going to click something else. I'm going to click this. It has a red box to say you don't want that. You click that, and it reduces all of this stuff, okay? I still have 3 things being selected, okay? So I'm going to unselect this little out of 10, and we're going to do that, okay? And so now only one thing is selected, and the way I select this one thing in green is using the tag strong span, okay? So I can copy this and use this to select the HTML node that says strong span, okay? And so that's how the selector gadget works. Is that all right? Okay, and then so I go back to R, and so I have the contents of that HTML into this thing called Lego Movie, right? And so using the pipes, I'm going to say from Lego Movie, go use the command HTML nodes, which is going to select the nodes, and the one we want is the one that's labeled strong span, okay? And so if I just run this, it's going to pick the HTML node, and it says, you know, span item prop rating value 7.8, okay? So this is the thing I want, okay? I just want the text inside this HTML node, so I'm going to feed that into, so using the pipe, I'm going to feed it into the function HTML text, okay? And so from there, it pulls out the text, 7.8. I want to turn that into a number, so I'm going to feed that output into the function as .numeric, okay? And so there we go. We've got 7.8 here. Is that good with everybody? Yeah.
Do we have to put like a period inside of the function or that you want to use to make the previous before using pipes?
We could. We don't have to, okay? The default setting for the pipe is that the previous output will automatically go into as the first argument in the function, okay? It's just if you want to use the output somewhere else in the function, you can use the period also, okay, to say I want to hear something. Okay, so we have this, all right, and then so now we have successfully stored rating as a, you know, numeric value, 7.8, okay? We can use the selector gadget to pull more things. So not just single values. We can say, so I'm going to load up selector gadget. Let's say I want to select this cast list, okay? So I'm going to select Will Arnett, okay? And so it's going to select everything in yellow. I don't actually want the box itself, so I'm going to click the box, and it will just pull all the things in yellow. So I get Will Arnett, Elizabeth Banks, Craig Berry, Alison Brie, all of these actors, okay? And so so we'll have 15 things being selected. We can see that right here. It says 15 things will be selected, and the way we select it is using .item prop, okay? This actual thing doesn't matter. It's just what's really highlighted on the page, okay? So, so I come back to R, and I say, okay, take the HTML stored in Lego Movie, run that through, select the nodes that are .item prop, and it selects all of these, whatever these nodes are, and just extract the text, okay? And so that's what we want, okay? And so we're going to store that into cast, and so the cast is just the text on all of those nodes, which sounds good to me. All right. You can even have it pull different things. So here we've been pulling out the text, but you can also say pull out the HTML attribute. So inside inside an HTML node, you might have something like, here's the attribute, if it's an image, it'll have one of the things is the src attribute that will link to where an image is stored. Okay, so here, I use selector gadget to try to get the URL of this image for the Lego movie. All right, and so and I did that. Okay, and I couldn't find the actual tag that got the exact thing, but it got this one, but it also pulled, it returned 2 values, right? So, and then the second one was the other image in that section, which is fine, but sometimes with selector gadget you might not be able to get just the one thing you're looking for. It might, because 2 things might have the same thing. So here it ended up getting both of these images from here, but that's okay. All right. And you can have it pull lots of stuff. So here I'm having it pull all the text for one of the reviews. Okay, and so this is all like someone's review of the Lego movie, and we can see, if I scroll down, their entire review is right here, or something like that. Okay. Oh, somehow it's different. Maybe IMDb loads a different review. I don't know what happened. Okay, yeah. So this is the review that it loaded. Okay, the standout feature of the Lego movie for me was blah 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 blah, and that's all right here. Okay, so whatever page it showed. Okay, and like if you load a page, sometimes the advertisements change. So same thing with when you have R go to a page, the ads it pulls might be different from the ads that you see on your screen, but probably the rest of the content is going to be the same, right? Sometimes that happens. Okay, so that's how we can extract a bunch of stuff and deal with it. Okay, with R. We can do other really neat things, and this is where I think RVest is totally awesome, is that we can create something called a session. Okay, and so what a session is that when you browse to a page, you have started a session in your browser. Okay, and it basically just means like your browser and the server, they're talking to each other. Okay, or that they're aware of each other. And then as a user, you're at the thing, you're like, oh, I'm curious about Will Arnett, okay, this actor. So you click him and you follow his page, and you're like, oh, okay, what else has Will Arnett been in, right? And so we look at his filmography and we say, oh, he's going to be starring in the movie The Nut Job 2, whatever that is, and he's also going to be in the Lego Batman movie, which sounds totally awesome, and he's also makes appearances on the TV show Conan, and he's BoJack Horseman, and all of this, right? I know him from Arrested Development and all of these other things. So he shows up in all of these different things. So his filmography shows up here, okay? And you're like, oh, that was Will Arnett. That's neat. Okay, who else is in this thing? Okay, and then so we see, all right, we've got Elizabeth Banks. We'll click her thing, all right, and we say, okay, Elizabeth Banks is in Pitch Perfect 3. So that's the trilogy of all time, and we've got Power Rangers, the greatest show from our childhood, and or whatever. Okay, so we have all of this stuff. And we can pull her filmography, and we've got whatever. Craig Berry, somehow he ranks number 3. I'm not sure why, but okay. So anyway, this shows up in our thing. And so what we can do, all right. So I can create a session, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, for this, I've created this vector called cast, and just to illustrate. What I want to do is I want to tell RVest to open a browser, follow the page link, or follow the link and go to Will Arnett's page. And at his page, let's go and we're going to click this link, and we're going to pull out his filmography along with the years that appear there. Okay, so that's what we'll do. And so, so to do that, to get the list of his movies, I'm going to use the selector gadget, and so I'll click this selector gadget, and what we want is we want to pull out this title. Okay, I click that. It's selecting way too much, so we don't want this. So I'll select that in yellow. Okay, and then that actually seemed to have done the trick. So you just keep clicking things that you don't want, and it says, okay, so you're going to get this thing in green and everything else that's in yellow, and that will be the way to select that is using the tags BA. Okay, so we'll clear that. We also want to get the years here, so I'll select that, and it pulls year column, and it's going to pull 207. You know, maybe I did want these things. Okay. So maybe I don't know, how do I select these other things? It's kind of hard to select some of these things here. So sometimes selector gadget can't get exactly what you're going for, but in this case we can get the title of the film or TV show and the years. Okay, and so the way so I'm going to select those, I'm going to indicate those, and I'm going to say follow that link and read the HTML on that page. And we're going to store that in as actor page. Okay, and then with the actor page, pull the node that has this tag BA, pull out the text, and here I just want the first 10 entries. Okay. Also with the actor page, pull out the node that says the column or the year, pull out that text, take the first 10, and here I'm going to apply string trim because when I first pulled it, it had a bunch of white space at the end. It was like space 2016 space. I want to get rid of that, so I just trimmed it. Okay, so that's trimming the extra white space. And we'll talk about the string functions. Okay, and then I'm also going to just repeat the actor's name several times. All right, and so again, what I do is I create a session. This creates kind of this browser, a virtual browser inside R. And so here's a session is open, and I'm going to tell it, follow the link. Okay, and so in this first example, we're going to say take from your current open session, follow the link that says Will Arnett. Okay, if I just say follow the link that's Will Arnett, it goes to his page. And it says, okay, I got it, status 200, which is a good thing. Okay, and then we can say, okay, follow that page and read in the HTML, and it will do that. Okay, but the power is that we can put this in a loop, so we don't have to do these pages manually. And I could say, follow the first 5 in here or something like that. Okay, and so for each one, so we're going to create a loop, and then we'll say go through the first 5 names in our cast. So follow this link that says Will Arnett, follow the link that says Elizabeth Banks, and follow this link. Okay, go to that page. Okay, follow the link and read in the HTML. Take that HTML page and pull all of the movie names, pull out all of the years, and then repeat the cast member's name. Okay, and so there it goes. And here you can see it's browsing. It browsed to 5 different pages and pulled the things that I told it to. Okay, and I stored all of that into this list called cast movies. So again, I created basically an empty list, and I said, store it in this spot for movies and years. And so now if I look at cast underscore movies, I've got a list with all of this information. So we can see, indeed, it successfully went to Will Arnett's page. It pulled his movies. It pulled the years that those movies were being produced, and it pulled his name. Okay, and over here, pitch for Elizabeth Banks, it pulled her movies. the years that they were worked on, along with same thing with Craig Berry and Alison Brie and David Burrows. So it has all of this, okay? And then just to kind of make it into a nicer data structure, I'm using a function from data.table called rbindList, which binds the list in kind of this data frame form, and it it has it stuck all of these together. So actually, probably let me just run that command again. Okay, and so here we see, starting at the Lego Movie page, it went to, the first 5 actors in the cast list, pulled their filmography and the years that they came from, and so on and so forth. And so you can set up with Arvest, you can start at any page really, and say, follow, and if you wanted to, you can say, have it even go deeper. You can say, okay, once you go into Will Arnett's page, then follow more links or something like that, right? You can say, using Selector Gadget, you can use the browser or the session to, follow more of these things and start kind of spidering out in that way with the session. So you can just start at one spot and have it follow links. All you have to do is give it the links that you want it to follow. And so there's questions like, how does it know which link to follow? So the command we're using here is follow link. And so I definitely recommend that you look at the help for follow link. Okay, and there's different ways to tell it to follow the link. So you can give it the actual thing, or give it the text as far as what it should follow, and so your session, you can have it follow link or go back or things like that. So whoops, somehow that happened. Okay. Are there any questions on the powers of Arvest? Have you guys seen this session in automated browsing before? No, this is new, right? Okay. So I think, I'll have a homework assignment coming up that has you create this and pulling information from this, okay? All of my homework, the intention is to be a little bit challenging, but to get you to really take advantage of some of this stuff that's available to you. Okay, so we'll end there, and I'll have office hours, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday.